name is Katie Gilstrap, Associate Professor of Marketing in the VCU School of Business. I have been at VCU since 2011 and teach Principles of Marketing, Marketing Research, and Integrated Marketing Communications. I also teach Product Innovation with the Da Vinci Center and several courses in our graduate program. I also serve as a Master Facilitator with the Henry Ford Entrepreneurship Academy. Today, we will be covering the marketing environment. This is a critical part of our examination of marketing because we don't exist in a vacuum. We are part of a larger ecosystem and must be aware of and respond to the forces around us. Today, we will cover the macro and the micro marketing environments, as well as different ways to consider growth as we navigate those respective forces. So let's get started. A company's marketing environment consists of the actors and the forces outside of marketing that affect our ability as marketers to build and maintain successful relationships with target customers. The marketing environment is comprised of the micro environment and the macro environment. The micro environment consists of the actors close to the company that affect its ability to service its customers. And the macro environment consists of those larger societal forces that affect the micro environment. So let's take a look at these in more detail. Let's start with the microenvironment. The major actors in the marketer's microenvironment include the company itself, its suppliers, marketing intermediaries, its competitors, and its publics. Let's take a closer look at each of these and discuss how they impact the marketer's ability to service its customers. When we are discussing the company itself, we're referring to all of those interrelated groups that form the company's internal environment. The goal here is that all groups should work in harmony to provide superior customer value and relationships with your target customers. Marketers will also want to examine talents and needs. As they look to the future, will they need to expand different areas of expertise? Will those be internal or will they need to go outside of the company? Now let's take a look at the role of suppliers. Suppliers provide the resources needed by the company to produce its goods and services. Marketing managers must watch supply availability. That's things like supply shortages or delays, labor strikes, and other events that can cost sales in the short run and damage customer satisfaction in the long run. Marketing managers also monitor the price trends of their key inputs. So you can see how the role of suppliers is really critical to the marketer's ability to service its customers. Turning to marketing intermediaries, let's first define what that is. Marketing intermediaries help the company to promote, sell, and distribute its products to its final buyers. And marketing intermediaries can take a variety of shapes. For the purposes of our discussion, we'll focus on 4. The first are resellers. Resellers are distribution channel firms that help the company find customers or make sales. These include wholesalers and retailers. Think of Target, for example, who resells products for Apple, Procter & Gamble, and many, many more. They serve as a reseller for those brands. And their role is critical because if the product is not displayed well or the customer receives poor service, it could reflect negatively on the brand. Physical distribution firms help the company to stock and move goods from their points of origin to their destinations. This is critical because you need to make sure your products are available to target customers. This became a critical issue during the COVID-19 pandemic when marketers couldn't get their products to end users. Marketing services agencies are the marketing research firms, advertising agencies, media firms, and marketing consulting companies that help the brand target and promote their products to the right markets. If the product is not marketed well, customers may not find it or even know it exists. Financial intermediaries include banks, credit companies, insurance companies, and other businesses that help finance transactions or insure against the risks associated with the buying and selling of the products that you're offering. This is critical. You can see through this examination how important it is that marketers recognize their intermediaries as partners rather than simply as channels through which they sell their products. These relationships are critical and must be managed. Competitors are another crucial component of the marketing microenvironment. Marketers must gain strategic advantage by positioning their offerings strongly against the competitive offerings. Understanding how to differentiate and position yourself among the competitive set is necessary in order to successfully reach your target market. Think about Target once again. They must understand Walmart's position in the marketplace to be able to build a unique value proposition and ultimately gain market share. Let's now look at the 4th area of the microenvironment, publics. A public is any group that has an actual or potential interest in or impact on an organization's ability to achieve its objectives. Financial publics influence the company's ability to obtain funds. Media publics carry news, features, and editorial opinions. With government publics, management must take government developments into account. With citizen action publics, a company's marketing decisions may be questioned by consumer organizations, environmental groups, etc. So it's important to be aware of those groups. Local publics include neighborhood residents and community organizations. And with the general public, their image of the company affects its buying. Internal publics include workers, managers, volunteers, and boards of directors. The idea is that with all of these groups, they're interested in what you're doing and can affect your ability to be effective and successful. It's critical that you're aware of them and that you manage your relationships with them carefully. Finally, let's look at the last micro-environmental factor, customers. There are 5 types of customer markets. The first one is a consumer market. This is where individuals and households buy goods and services for personal consumption. With business markets, companies buy goods and services for further processing in their goods or for use in their production processes. Reseller markets buy goods and services to resell for a profit. Government markets consist of government agencies that buy goods and services to produce public services. International markets are buyers in other countries, including consumers, producers, resellers, and their governments. So understanding what's happening in your customer markets is absolutely critical because changes in preferences or laws can mean the difference in being on the cutting edge or getting left behind. Now that we have examined the microenvironment, let's take a closer look at the macroenvironment. As a reminder, the macroenvironment is the set of larger societal forces that affect the microenvironment. I will offer you an acronym to help you remember the macroenvironmental factors. PEST. Let's start with the P, political and legal environment. The political environment consists of laws, government agencies, and pressure groups that influence or limit various organizations and individuals in a given society. This includes things like legislation surrounding business, which is important because legislation protects companies from one another. It protects consumers from unfair business practices. It protects the interests of society against unrestrained business behavior. So because government agencies have discretion in enforcing laws, they can have an impact on a company's marketing performance, particularly in the areas of advertising and product safety. Let's now move to the E in PEST and examine the economic environment and the environment itself from a natural resources perspective. The economic environment consists of factors that affect consumer purchasing power and spending patterns. In 2022, inflationary pressures, high fuel costs, and rising interest rates impacted consumer discretionary spending in a big way. Understanding what's happening in the economic environment is critical to understanding your customer's potential ability to buy. On the other side of the environmental coin, the natural environment involves the natural resources that are needed as inputs by marketers or that are affected by marketing activities. Trends in the natural environment include things like shortages of raw materials. This is especially true after the pandemic. We also need to consider things like increased pollution and increased government intervention. Companies are now developing environmentally sustainable strategies. Lululemon, for example, now has a reselling area of their website, and H&M has responded to criticism around their model of fast fashion and that's impact on the environment. Turning to the S part of PEST, the social front captures what's happening in our society both socially and demographically. Demography is the study of human populations in terms of size, density, location, age, gender, race, occupation, and other statistics you might find on a census form. Changes in the world demographic environment have major implications for business. For example, the world is getting older because we're living longer. So understanding how marketers can help support an aging population creates meaningful opportunities. Consider Good Grips utensils. They were developed to help arthritic hands, but they turned out to be better for everyone. You may even have one of those in your drawer. There is also heightened interest in ethics and social responsibility actions, also known as corporate social responsibility or CSR. This is where enlightened companies encourage their managers to do the right thing. The boom in online, mobile, and social media marketing has created a new set of social and ethical issues as well. I'm including a great article about an ethical issue Target faced in the privacy realm. Finally, the T in PEST centers on technology. The technological environment is the most dramatic force now shaping our world. Consider how VR, AI, and machine learning are impacting what we buy, what we do, and how we do it. Being aware of trends in the technological landscape and assessing if and how you will participate is a critical decision for marketers. Let's now look at a case that brings all this together. Here's a quick segment from 60 Minutes on CrossFit. Take some notes on how the company has navigated their marketing environment, both from a macro and micro perspective, to be such a force in the fitness space. So let's unpack that for a moment. Let's start with the micro environment and the forces and actors that CrossFit was managing. Think about the customers and what was happening in their customer base. He talked about the fact that more people were working out than ever, but more people were overweight than ever. So understanding what's happening in the customer environment is important. There's also a mention of publics. Lots of people have lots of things to say about CrossFit. Newspaper organizations, Outside Magazine, lots of press on CrossFit, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So being aware of what's being said about you and how you're impacting the world that you live in is important so that you can manage it. He also talked about competition. All of the organizations that were ripping him off and copying his model, or the way that he was doing things differently to address the fact that what he saw as the real need had never been addressed. And then the company itself. They talk about Greg Glassman. He has no board of directors. He was rogue in the way that he was managing the company. And that really leads us to a conversation on the macro environment. But looking at how CrossFit was very aware of what was happening inside their micro environment gives some insight into how they were so successful. They never took their eye off the ball in these different dimensions and how they were working within and responding to different dimensions within that space. So now let's take a look at the macro environmental factors. Let's start with the beginning of PEST, the political and legal dimension of that macro environment. There was a lot that was said around the legal dimension of CrossFit. Greg Glassman said he loves lawyers. They're like leprechauns, they're everywhere, because he loves the fight. But it's important to know, how can he combat copyright infringements? What is he able and not able to do when it comes to protecting his brand? So understanding the legal environment is important for them. Also, from a social and cultural perspective, there's a lot that case brings to light. So let's start with some of the social elements. We know that demography is a part of the social element of the macro environment. So CrossFit is for everyone, and he highlights more mature women that are engaging in CrossFit, pregnant women that are engaging in CrossFit. So the fact that we have this older society and that birth rates are on the rise, it's really speaking to those different demographical elements that are taking place in our society. When you think about culture, CrossFit, he refers to it as people saying that it's like a cult. And he says, I'm not keeping anyone here. It's really about the spirit of wanting to be part of a group of people who are excited about and enthusiastic about the same thing that you are. That's cheering you on, your team, finding your people. So CrossFit really developed a model that speaks to that and takes advantage of that cultural movement. And then there were also the things that were happening in our culture. And so you may know that Greg Glassman is no longer with CrossFit. He resigned after some racist and inappropriate remarks that he made during the social justice movement of 2020. And so the culture responded in a way that he was no longer aligned with the values and brand of the company that he built. He could no longer represent the brand of CrossFit. And in fact, Reebok departed ways with CrossFit after Greg Glassman made those remarks. And so there were consequences for marketing intermediaries as well. And then from a technology perspective, CrossFit is willfully simple. There's no AI, there's no fancy computer systems that are leading you through the training, there's no fancy equipment. It is willfully basic. It's about the movement, it's about moving your body in a particular way. And so they've specifically chosen to not adopt some of the latest and greatest in the technological space. And so what you can see is that it is a careful navigation of these different dimensions that propelled CrossFit to the success that it is, and some missteps that really affected the future of the organization. And so it really is this critical and close navigation and management of these forces that affect the path and the future of a business. The truth is that the marketing environment is going to be a critical topic, not just in this course, but in every marketing course that you take. And that's because it's important to be a student not only of the organization that you're working with, but of the industry that you're in. And so if you're interested in learning more about these different dimensions and these different environments, I encourage you to be in touch with our business school librarian. This person can help you navigate the extensive VCU library system so that you can really dig in and understand what resources are available to help make you an expert in these different areas.